All right, we're back with another Q&A video. And it's been an eventful week to say the least. I thank all of you for posting your questions. But let me quickly say, I never come on here asking for money. I do place an ad in my longer videos for anyone who would like to subscribe to the blog or donate. They can do so of their own free will. With that said, if you're going to post 5 questions for one video, show some appreciation. Okay, let's begin. Do you believe this quote from Sonny Francis to be true or false? There are no tough guys in this life. All the so-called tough guys are in the cemetery. Be a nice guy, a respectful guy. What I can say is, if you lived a life and were around as long as Sonny was, you can have any opinion you want. I believe he was speaking in general, and it's important to remember that quote came from an interview, and Sonny surely knew how to choose his words. He was the last of a dying breed. We never met, but I've heard guys only say good things about him. You've talked in the past about your interactions with Pete Inzerillo. Do you know if Joe Gambino was his captain? I'm really not sure. Either it was Joe or Lorenzo, although at the time, Lorenzo had moved up in position. When you're in the life, how often do guys speak about government politics? Do guys lean left or right? I've heard some talk of politics, now and then, and most guys favored Republicans. When you hear about the mob tied to construction, past and present, you never hear of the Bonanno family's name. Why is that? Are they not into it, or they've never been caught for it? I would say the last part of your answer, because the Bonannos definitely have construction interests, as every family has their construction guys. Can an associate formally introduce made guys to each other? Absolutely not. Only a member can introduce another member. I believe a lot of people fail to understand that being an associate in comparison to a member is night and day. I read in a couple of books that during the 1960s and early 70s, the Genovese family was selling buttons for $50,000. Was that true? And when you were on the street, did you hear about any family selling buttons? If so, what families were doing it? I've personally heard from guys that this was taking place years ago. I also remember hearing of one alleged incident, but I'm not going to discuss who was involved. Did you ever meet Louis Petrocelli? I believe he was in Frankie Camuso's crew. I've never met him. Frankie usually moved around by himself, and whenever he was with someone, it was usually Porky. Have you ever met Bonanno member Ernest Aiello? I've never met him. Did you ever meet Bill Catolo Jr.? Was he a member? In his social media, he looks to be a real gentleman. I personally never met Billy, and I don't know what his status was on the street. I've interacted with him through social media, and he's always carried himself like a gentleman. Is wearing a pinky ring frowned upon? Can you wear one and still not be made? Most guys no longer wear pinky rings. A few did, and pinky rings are sold in jewelry stores everywhere. They're not solely created for the mob. The next question I'm going to rephrase out of respect for the Catolo family. When Bill Catolo was killed, as the years passed, do you think Persico and Jackie DeRoss regret that decision or feel like that's something that had to be done? They should have, but I'm sure that they regretted nothing that they ever did, even if it was wrong. Did the Lucchese administration, during your time, have regular jobs on the side, or was this usually reserved for captains and soldiers? Our acting boss, Matty Madonna, had a job, as did most guys in the family. There was no rule against working a legit job. In fact, it was encouraged. I believe this to be a repeated question. Do you know if the Camorra and the Andromeda have the same initiation ceremonies like American Cosa Nostra? Each and every ceremony is conducted differently, in whatever fashion the organization feels comfortable with, all with the same result. The wording is what's different. What do you know about the Lucchese's in St. Petersburg, Florida, particularly Tony Amico from New Jersey, who came here 20 years ago and now owns everything? I honestly have no idea who he is and never heard of him. He could just be a legitimate businessman with an Italian last name. Who knows? During your time, have you ever met Christy Ticfoneri? I believe he was released during my time and naturally on paper, but I never met him. If a member was a captain prior to going to prison, once released, is he reinstated back to his captain position? Not necessarily. It all depends on the family's administration and what they want to do with him. A captain position is not always a permanent one. Did you know Lucchese associate Ralph Lento? Okay, the short answer is I didn't know him. I knew of him, and heard nothing but bad things about him. Just to give an example, one night I walked into Dunkin' Donuts in Howard Beach with Joey DiBenedetto. A guy came over to him to say hello. When we went outside, Joey turned to me and said, "John, if you ever see me not introduce someone to you, it's because he's a jerk off." That was Ralphie Lento. He's a dog. More to come on him. Why do people believe Frank Deciccio would have been a great boss, and also believe he would have never gotten indicted? As far as being indicted, anyone can get indicted if they want you bad enough. One night, I stood outside Big John's Cigar Lounge, and for over an hour, I listened to Gambino captain Johnny Rizzo and Gambino member Charlie Boy tell me what type of guy Frankie Deciccio was. In their opinion, and they knew him well, he was 1,000% for that life, a man's man. I guess that answers the question. Was there ever a dress code within that life? For example, ceremonies such as an induction. Years ago, guys would all wear suits, but during my time, we dressed casual. Ceremonies are different. Typically, you wear a suit to one. People say the mafia is developing into a street gang. I think the opposite, because most of these guys aren't coming off the street anymore. I'm convinced the mafia is morphing into a high-end social club fraternity, something between the Masons, Knights of Columbus, and the Italian-American Anti-Defamation League. In a way, it's going back to its roots, which were not just street gangs, but semi-legit fraternal entities, like Unione Siciliana. Do you think my theory holds any water? I mean this with no disrespect. I think it's more wishful thinking. Some people don't want the mob to fizzle out. However, if we can equate the mob to a can of soda, it's flat. I've said it, as did numerous people. The mob will never be what it once was. They can go back to robbing push carts, but it's not happening. As more and more of the rackets die off and technology advances and becomes more inescapable, the mob will get more and more into legitimate businesses. They'll always have that criminal element, but if you go about life chasing the past, you'll never evolve. If there was one military branch you had to join, what would it be and why? That's easy. SEAL Team 6. And why not join the elite? If you haven't liked this video yet, please take the time now and give it a like, as it helps with YouTube's algorithm. Anyone who'd like to show their appreciation for videos like this, or more importantly, help me to continue making them, you can donate with the Super Thanks icon down below, or through the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. Let me quickly mention my blog, also called Sit Down News, especially for those of you who still enjoy reading. The site can be found at sitdownnews.com and is a paid subscription. And for the final question, with respect to Johnny Santori, did he ever have any ambitions of getting straightened out, or did that not interest him? If he were alive while you were a Lucchese member, would you have liked to have him as an associate? Let's pretend he wasn't with Sierra Perone. To begin with, I don't play pretend, if you know anything about me. John was an extremely capable guy, a tough guy without the mob. And before he passed away, Sierra was putting him up, but not because John wanted it, more so because he deserved it. If John didn't pass away, I would have never been involved with the Lucchese's. One of the last things, among many, that he told me was, when you get out, you're coming with me, and I don't want to hear nothing. Presently, I no longer associate myself in any shape or form to my former life and that whole world. But I do wish my friend was still alive today.